The dining room felt unusually formal that evening. The kind of stiffness that usually meant bad news was coming, but no one wanted to admit it. Plates were arranged too neatly. Glasses filled a little too high. And everyone seemed to wait for someone else to speak. First I thought, maybe it was about Lauren's new fertility treatment, or Dad's work stress, or Mom's perpetual need for control. But nothing prepared me for what she finally said. "We use your college fund for your sister's IVF." The words dropped in the center of the table, like a stone breaking through glass. Mom said it with the same tone she used when reminding us to take out the trash. Calm, practiced, unapologetic. Lauren looked at me with a tiny smile, trying to soften the blow, but making it somehow worse. Dad lowered his eyes toward his silverware, as if rearranging forks could hide him. I waited for someone, anyone, to explain, to add context, to soften the cruelty of how casually my future had been traded away. But no explanation came. I didn't shout. I didn't break. I didn't even ask why. Instead, I took a slow breath and placed my glass down with steady hands. But inside, something powerful cracked. A silent fracture. The kind that doesn't make noise until much later, when the truth echoes back at you. In that moment, surrounded by the people who claimed to love me, I realized something chilling. I was the only one at that table who hadn't been part of the decision. After dinner, the house felt colder than usual, as if the walls themselves were ashamed to hold the conversation that had occurred inside them. I walked down the hallway slowly, each step echoing in a home I suddenly felt foreign. In the family portraits lining the wall, birthday smiles, vacation laughs, holidays we pretended were perfect, stared back at me like ghosts, haunting a life I thought was real. In my room, I sat on the edge of the bed replaying Mom's words. My college fund, my future gone, spent on a decision made by people who never once asked me what I wanted. And this wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment. It felt planned, discussed, approved, everything a family decision should be. Except I wasn't included. Laura knocked on my door. Not gently, not apologetically, just a casual tap, the kind siblings use when they assume you'll open. Regardless, she stood there with her usual polished look and said, "You'll understand someday. Families make sacrifices." But she wasn't the one sacrificing. She never had been. The rules bent for her. The love stretched wider for her. The opportunities fell into her hands, like they were predetermined. When she left, the silence she left behind felt heavier than her words. That night I realized something I'd avoided for years. I wasn't treated like an equal member of this family. I was the placeholder child, the one expected to adjust quietly. And now they had taken something I could never rebuild, as easily as they dismissed it. 2 days passed before anyone spoke to me again. Not because they were giving me space, but because they assumed the issue was settled. As if silence could smooth the edges of betrayal. I spent most of the time outside in the backyard, an escape from the suffocating calm inside. The air felt clearer there, though my thoughts were anything but. Dad eventually joined me. He sat beside me on the old wooden bench, the one he built years ago, back when things felt simpler. He didn't look at me, just stared straight ahead at the fence. "Your mother thought it was the right thing," he said quietly. "What about you?" I asked. My voice didn't shake, but the question felt like it cut through both of us. He swallowed hard. I went along with it. It was honest, and honesty hurt more than lies ever could, because it meant he had chosen silence over me. I wanted him to say something more, to fight for me to admit he struggled with the decision. But he didn't. He just sighed, a long defeated breath that carried years of choosing the easier path. In that moment, I realized that my entire life had been shaped by decisions made without my voice. My dreams were negotiable, my needs were optional, and that's when clarity settled in, cold, deep, unignorable. If I stayed in this house, in this quiet pattern of disappearing under their choices, I would lose much more than a college fund. I would lose myself. That night I packed my bag, not dramatically, not angrily, just methodically. A few clothes, some savings, a notebook, the things that were truly mine. Each item I folded felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. For years I had convinced myself that leaving home would be selfish. I told myself my family needed me, my help, my silence, my understanding. But standing there packing, I finally saw the truth. They needed the version of me who didn't ask questions, and I wasn't willing to be that person anymore. When I walked toward the door, Mom looked up from her laptop. "Where are you going?" she asked, not with fear or concern, but with the annoyance of someone interrupted somewhere. "My future belongs to me," I said. She didn't get up. She didn't protest. She just blinked, confused, as if she couldn't understand why I wasn't quietly accepting another decision made for me. Dad appeared at the hallway entrance, worry flickering in his eyes, but not enough to stop me. Lauren stood behind him, arms crossed, her confident world finally showing a crack. But no one stepped forward, no one said stay, and somehow they made walking out the door easier. The night air hit my face, like a promise I hadn't known existed. For the first time in my life, there were no expectations, squeezing the air from my lungs. I didn't have a plan, but I had freedom, and freedom, even when terrifying, felt better than being invisible. Life outside wasn't magical or easy. It was raw, uncertain, unforgiving, but it was mine. I rented a small room with peeling paint, and a window that stuck when it rained. I took anything I could find. 2 part-time jobs, late shifts, long walks home when buses stopped running. But every struggle felt different from the ones I endured at home. These struggles built me instead of breaking me. Every paycheck added to a savings jar labeled my future. A quiet rebellion, a declaration that I would build everything they assumed I didn't need. Weeks turned into months. I learned skills no one thought I'd need: budgeting, cooking, negotiating, surviving without safety nets. I met people who saw me not as a background character, but as someone capable, someone deserving, and slowly began to understand something powerful. I wasn't angry anymore, not because what they did was right, but because I had reclaimed the parts of me they never valued. One evening, as I sat by the window of my tiny room, city lights flickering outside, I realized something with absolute clarity. Their betrayal didn't destroy me, it released me. If they had protected my college fund, maybe I never would have stepped into a life where I learned to fight for myself. I wasn't the quiet child anymore. I wasn't the sacrifice one. I was the version of myself they never expected. Stronger, wiser, and finally, undeniably free.